What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. The Trust the Bank podcast is here. We're going to actually have two episodes this week. We got the pre-game, the early week podcast. Then we're also going to have a podcast coming out on Friday reacting to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game on Thursday Night Football. So it should be a lot of fun. So if you're looking for Sunday, the Ravens aren't playing, you're not finding something to do, you can listen to the podcast. Or if you're just waiting for football to start on Friday and Saturday, you can listen to that then as well. But mainly this episode is just going to be us talking about the questions from you guys, TTB family. These are all coming from the good old-fashioned YouTube community page. But Josh, before we get into that, is there any topic that you want to talk about this week before we even get into the questions?
Nah, man. I think we can go ahead and answer the TTB family, see what they're talking about, and if we come up with something later, then we go from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. So this first question, I really like this one a lot. This is from Josh Rouse. I really hope I'm saying that right because he asked a lot of questions. We'll be going into a couple of them. But he says, what rookie besides Hamilton and Linderbaum are you most impressed with? For me, it's Pepe Williams.
I mean, outside of Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton, I think Isaiah Likely and Pepe Williams is definitely some of our guys that we've really been looking into. But right now, I say Pepe has been the one that's really been a bright spot out of this year's draft. Outside of those two first rounders, I mean, even though he's small, he's physical. He has shown that he can stick with wide receivers. Yes, he may not have the height as the typical corner, but he plays tough, and he doesn't mind, being that dog. So I mean, I like what he's doing. I like the energy that he's bringing on the table, and he did beat out Brandon Stevens for the number 3 cornerback's position. I don't know if that was just because Brandon Stevens is hurt, but Pepe Williams shows that he can start and that he can play, and he's been working. So I definitely love seeing Pepe out there. He makes his presence known. I'm looking forward to him getting the pick 6 in the regular season. So I definitely love what Pepe is doing.
Yeah, I think the Ravens have a lot of good rookies this year. It's so funny because this year it seems like so many people have been clowning on Eric DeCosta. Oh, man, this guy can't draft because you look at the wide receiver position. But in terms of the draft picks, I think they've all been pretty good. Not all, but, a lot of them have come out and they've played well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton, we're not going to talk about those guys, but you brought up Pepe Williams. That dude is physical. He's made multiple tackles this year at the sticks, forcing them short, some on third down. He had, I think, his best plays against Tyreek Hill. He stuck Tyreek Hill at the sideline, forced him out of bounds, and put him on the ground. But Pepe Williams, he's been very good. Like you said, number 3 cornerback right now. Isaiah Likely hasn't gotten the opportunities I think a lot of other, we were maybe expecting. But when he's been out there, he's looked good. His his weakness is that he's not a great run blocker, so it's hard for the Ravens to put him out there in a lot of situations because he's not great at the run blocking. But we knew that was a problem with him coming in. That was not an expectation from day one. But in passing situations, he's a guy where I'm very comfortable with throwing him out there. And he's had some big catches for the Ravens. But also we got guys like Travis Jones, got his first sack, I believe, 2 weeks ago. He's looked good. Jordan Stout, I got to say, Jordan Stout's I think he's been the most impressive to me. Even though he is a punter, he's had a lot of punts where it's like, oh yeah, that was a booming 60-yard punt. Now we don't use him a ton. He's not someone that we get to see out there as much as I would maybe like with the 4th down attempts and such. But he's looked good. He hasn't had any terrible punts. When he does have punts that are, 40, 45 yards, which are kind of on the short side, they're high. They're not returnable punts. So that's still part of the strategy. Sometimes you punt it for distance to try and pin them back there. Sometimes you punt it high to make sure there's no return and you play it a little bit safe. And he's looked really good doing that so far. Also, has not botched a hold yet for Justin Tucker. Always got to, knock on wood right there. That's the most important thing out of our punter is making sure that he can hold that ball for Justin Tucker. But, I mean, really the only rookies that, I would say haven't impressed me are Jalen Armour-Davis. He's played very little. Yeah. But again, I felt like when we drafted him, he was kind of a project player, wasn't ready to go day one. We stuck him on I believe he was the guy guarding Devontae Parker a lot of the time, and he was guarding Jalen Waddle as well. that was kind of a questionable call. That was when we had Marlon and Marcus a little bit banged up still. But the other guy is Charlie Kohler. We're waiting to get him back from injury, and then David Ojabo is the other guy, and it's like, okay, we're waiting for him to get back. Maybe we've got 2 open spots this week on the 53-man roster, and we've already designated for return from IR David Ojabo and Tyus Bowser. So there's potential for them to play this week. I'm not expecting him to play this week, but soon. Maybe one plays this week, maybe one debuts next week or within the next couple weeks. But like, I'm gonna flip this, Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Who's been the most disappointing rookie?
I gotta say my big dog. I gotta say my gorilla. Right now, I know we talked about, and if nobody knows who the gorilla is, or everybody forgot, is Isaiah Likely. The reason I say that because, one, I definitely feel like he's going to be a big part of the offense. I know it's still early in the season as well. What is this, week 7? So, I mean, I know, things can always turn around. But, me personally, if I'm an offense coordinator, if I see a guy, in a tight end body, but still can play like a wide receiver, I'm like, oh, damn, man. I got to get this guy out here, man. I don't care. He was literally the preseason superstar. And now, it's like, I don't know if the real live game speed against starters is kind of, taking a toll on him. I know he's had the issues with, being a run block type of guy, but those type of guys, how to put in a scheme where they can, still be in the midst, but also, their weakness can be hidden. And the Ravens haven't really given him enough time, in my opinion. They haven't put him in enough situations where he can still continue to grow. It's like we talked about this before, even when it comes to our wide receivers. There's no reason every time, you got to play, it should a play coming up, you should have these different set of wide receivers. If a defensive coordinator is smart enough, if a defensive player or captain is smart enough, they will start realizing the tendencies when we switch out different wide receivers and tight ends, what play to expect, whether it's going to be a run or a pass. I feel like, if Isaiah works hard to earn those reps, whether it's a run play or a pass play, you keep that type of guy on the field. You have him line up, whether in the slot or on the outside, and use him as the threat he can be, which is a pass catching tight end, which is a big body, which is an end zone type of guy. Don't have him a part of that, roll out to the right or roll out to the left play. No, go the deep fader to the big guy. He's 6'4". He's 6'4". He can go jump. He can box him. He can box guys out. And we need him to really thrive, to take that pressure off Mark Andrews. We see what's been going on when Rashad Bateman is out. Our wide receivers ain't been doing the best as far as getting the separation. So now you had to demand a little bit more. You had to demand a little bit more performance out of a Josh Oliver, a Nick Boyle, a Isaiah Likely. You can't keep forcing it to Mark Andrews. So I definitely hope Isaiah Likely takes a big step. I feel like he will be a big part of the offense. He just got to keep on working hard and earn his reps.
Yeah, I like that answer. I do want to bring up I forgot to mention 2 rookies, Daniel Faalele and Tyler Beatty. The reason why I didn't mention them is because they haven't really gotten much of an opportunity in significant amounts. But Joshua, do you want to talk a little bit about Daniel Faalele a little bit? I saw you lit up a little bit talking when I brought him up.
Because you know what, I'm gonna say this about Daniel Faalele, and I know it's gonna be brief. Patrick McCarry, yes, he's the Swiss Army knife. I know, everybody like, well, Daniel Faalele is the rookie, and I was one of those guys. Putting him at left tackle, I was worried, but he ended up carrying his own. So if the guy's already carrying his own, why not keep on putting that guy out there to get his reps? Because when they put Patrick McCarry out there, not taking nothing from him, but when he was doing the pitch count on Ronnie Stanley, you can tell the difference. Even when Morgan Moses got hurt, Daniel Faalele's true position is right tackle. Why not let the project guy go ahead and get the reps in at his true position? But instead, you put in the Swiss Army knife. I mean, like I said, Patrick McCarry, you brought him in, you give him the contract extension for 3 years. I totally understand it. I totally respect it. He totally has earned it. But if you bring a guy in that you feel like is a project guy that's been getting that got some play time and show that he can hold his own, let's keep on developing him with the real game time. Let's get him with the real game reps. Hopefully, we see him more down the later the season, to keep Morgan Moses or Ronnie Stanley healthy so he can keep on producing. But I love seeing the big mammoth out there, doing what he do best, especially when the run plays. He looked good mauling guys down.
Yeah, I think Daniel Faalele, he's actually been pretty surprising to me because he actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Outside of that first half of playing against the Patriots, it was like he was getting his foot. Shout out to Weiss on the Patriots again. That dude had a motor. But it's like, okay, all of a sudden, and shout out to Greg Roman, he was helping him out. He was letting Patrick Carr get out there and block and things like that. But he looked pretty good. Tyler Beatty, I'm going to say Tyler Beatty's been the most disappointing. Again, I know he hasn't gotten the opportunity. He hasn't gotten the chances. But I'm disappointed that he hasn't gotten that. Obviously, I don't expect him to get an opportunity for the rest of the year. I think his best chance at playing was going to be in the first few weeks of the season when we don't have J.K., when we don't have Gus.
Right.
When it's a battle with Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis, that's when I felt like he had a chance. And so I'm disappointed that we weren't able to see him play with the Ravens this year with those players. Now, next year, totally different story. I'm still rooting for the guy. I like him as a draft pick. I'm not upset about it. They're probably working on him in special teams, as a gunner, and they're probably working with him as being a third down pass catching back. Just taking a little bit more time for him to get there. He's a 6th round running back draft pick, not expected to be a big impact guy right away, but I'm a bit disappointed he wasn't able to get some snaps because initially the run game was pretty bad and we weren't having good production out of our running backs. And it kind of reminded me of Nate McCrary last year on the bench, and we're watching and we're like, why is Latavius Murray still holding this ball? Can we bring up Nate McCrary, please? Or can we bring up Tyshawn Williams? That's kind of how I feel about Tyler Beatty, like wishing he got out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the performance of all the Ravens rookies. So, but I feel like Tyler Beatty may be a bit of a cop-out answer. So I'll say that my biggest, disappointment of the guys that have had significant opportunity is probably going to be, oh man, it's so tough.
Right.
Because there's no one that's bad. Yeah. I'm going to go with, I really don't want to say this, but I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton. Even though I love the way that he's played, I think he's played well. He's also had some moments, the Miami Dolphins game was the biggest one, where it's like, okay, he's still growing. He's made some good plays. He's made some bad plays. Yeah. I wish we could see him out there more, but we can't. He hasn't made a lot of plays. I'll say that. He's played well, though, at the same time. The hardest thing about being a defensive back, being a safety, is getting stats. Because if you're really good, you're not going to get stats. If you're really bad, you're not going to get that many stats. But if you're like bad, but not that bad, you may get some stats because it's like, oh, you had a bunch of knockdowns because they threw at you 30, shout out to Mr. Anthony Averett, where it was like, wow, Anthony Averett's actually got some interceptions. Like, yeah, because they throw at him every single snap. Kyle Hamilton's in that spot where like he's playing good. But he's not playing well enough to the point where he's jumping other people's routes. He's doing crazy things, getting those hit stick tackles, but he's been opportunistic. He's fallen on fumbles. Geno Stone had the fumble recovery at the end of the game. I think Kyle Hamilton was right next to him. Kyle Hamilton was right next to him. He was jumping on that with him. Like, he's always jumping on the ball. He's always there. Yeah. But he's not allowing that many passes. But at the same time, I would like for him to, I would hope for him to make some more plays on his own rather than kind of waiting for things to come to him. But that's, again, it's tough for him. I also understand. I'm not trying to dog on him whatsoever. I think he's played pretty well. Obviously, he had those early mistakes, and I just know that a lot of I don't want to jump on the train of a lot of Ravens fans that are like, Kyle Hamilton's a terrible draft pick. He's not been doing well. I'm not trying to jump on the boat with them. I'm just saying, okay, of all the guys we have, I wish I could see a little bit more from him. But that's also, again, he's not on the field as much. I see him a lot out there on special teams. The benefit is he's playing. It's very clear the coaches like him. And it's very clear that he's opportunistic. It's one thing to be a guy that's just kind of running around everywhere and not doing anything. He's jumping on footballs, and that's at least something. He's already recovered a fumble. He's jumped on other things. He forced the fumble. That may have been in a preseason game. Yeah, or it was early in the season. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been, Derwin James rookie year, right? So it's kind of just somewhere that falls in the between. Like he's right now, he's playing like a competent safety, which I'm happy with. I would like to see a little bit more though. But